It's a Heidel minicast. And now, Scott Clark.
Today's Heidelcast comes from Bob Strimple's response to Kenneth L. Gentry's essay, Postmillennialism, and it occurs in the Volume 3 Views on the Millennium and Beyond, edited by Darrell L. Bach, published in 1999 by Zondervan. And our reading picks up on page 67.
If the Heidelcast helps you, won't you help us keep it going?
You can make the Coffer clink by clicking on the PayPal link on the Heidel blog or by mailing a check to Heidelberg Reformation Association, 1637 East Valley Parkway, number 391, Escondido, California, 92027. Bob turns to critiquing Gentry's account of the history of postmillennialism. One of the interesting questions here is who counts as a postmillennialist? And according to Gentry, anybody who expects the gospel to make any progress in the world is a postmillennialist. Bob writes, Pastor Gentry begins with a fairly lengthy history of postmillennialism. In this regard, I would simply caution the reader to do the necessary research and evaluate for himself or herself the eschatological statements of each of the theologians cited as either nascent or full-blown postmillennialists before accepting that characterization of their position. For example, the documentation cited for Athanasius in Gentry's earlier book, He Shall Have Dominion, consists entirely of statements by Athanasius showing that, quote, the great progress of the gospel is expected, period, close quote. On the basis of that criterion, virtually every Christian theologian could be claimed as a postmillennialist. Another example, Gentry lists John Calvin as, quote, an incipient postmillennialist, close quote. And here I insert my editorial comment, that's ridiculous. Nobody who actually reads Calvin in context could possibly think that he could be classed as a postmillennialist. Bob writes, this will surely come as a surprise to Calvin scholars who have viewed the Second Helvetic Confession, 1566, as echoing the teaching of all the leading reformers, and of Calvin in particular. In Article 11, and compare Article 27, the Second Helvetic says, we further condemn Jewish dreams that there will be a golden age on earth before the day of judgment, and that the pious, having subdued all their godless enemies, will possess all the kingdoms of the earth. For evangelical truth in Matthew chapters 24 and 25, and Luke chapter 18, and apostolic teaching in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 2 Timothy chapters 3 and 4 present something quite different. Bob continues, Gentry's section Theological Foundations of Postmillennialism presents no doctrines that are distinctive of postmillennialism. Certainly amillennialists and premillennialists also affirm God's, quote, creational purpose, close quote, sovereign power, close quote, and, quote, blessed provision, period, close quote. Thus, this section contributes nothing to the defense of postmillennialism's fundamental specific contention that Christ will win the vast majority of men to salvation in the present age, close quote. At the end of the section, Gentry himself recognizes this. In the next section, Redemptive Historical Flow of Postmillennialism, Gentry continues to paint with a broad brush, citing biblical passages that speak of the creation covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, and the new covenant, but which at no point established the specifics of the postmillennial vision. For example, as noted above, postmillennialists are not the only Christians who believe that, quote, Christ's redemptive labor will have consequences in history, close quote. Gentry's accent on the historical and temporal, quote, this world, close quote, realism of redemptive history makes a telling and helpful point against Platonism or Bardianism, but is irrelevant as an argument against amillennialism or premillennialism.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for more from the Heidelcast, brought to you by HeidelbergReformationAssociation.org. Don't forget, when the coin in the coffer clinks, the cost of bandwidth shrinks. Copyright Heidelberg Reformation Association. All rights reserved. This is a Heidel Media production.